This is part 2 of my 3-part series on intuitive eating. You can check out part 1 here or in the description. As you can see from the title, this is about health at every size. It's this idea that obesity isn't actually an epidemic, that it is, healthy lifestyle factors that matter, not really weight, and that you can be obese and be healthy. To be clear, health at every size and intuitive eating are very, very similar. They are both anti-dieting, body positive movements, and many intuitive eaters are pro health at every size, but not all. For instance, the book Intuitive Eating by dietitians Evelyn Tribble and Elise Reich isn't actually health at every size. In fact, the point of the book was to address what they saw as an anti-health aspect of the anti-dieting movement. While the anti-dieting movement shuns dieting and hails body acceptance, thankfully, it often fails to address the health risks of obesity and eating. And you see this throughout the book. They talk about unrealistic weight loss goals and that weight loss shouldn't be the primary goal, your primary focus, but they also say that obesity is unhealthy and that many people who try intuitive eating will lose weight. They even include a chart of suggested weight ranges. On their website, they do say that they are aligned with health at every size because the pursuit of intentional weight loss is a failed paradigm, which creates health problems, including weight stigma, weight cycling, and eating disorders. All bodies deserve dignity and respect. Pretty much what they say in the book. Yes, they are body positive. They think that dieting is bad and, does all these harmful things, but they're not really talking about obesity as a non-serious health risk, right? They're not saying that they are aligned with health at every size because they don't think obesity is a problem. Now, they have watered things down a little, made it a little bit more vague, which is kind of annoying. That quote from earlier is from the 2nd edition. In the 3rd edition, they change it slightly, removing the word obesity completely. They remove the weight chart completely as well. But they never just come out and say anything like, obesity isn't the health risk it has been reported to be, nothing like that. In fact, other parts of the 3rd edition, the most recent edition, make it clear that the authors still disagree and do view obesity as a health risk, as something to be treated. Now, they do have a 4th edition up for pre-order right now, so that should be coming out sometime pretty soon. Maybe they've changed their position. Maybe they will elaborate on this a little bit. That would be cool because, again, it's a little annoying. They seem to, I don't know, they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, I think. They want to be part of the health at every size movement, but they don't want to come right out and say that obesity is fine actually, or isn't that big of a deal because, obviously they don't believe that. But again, many intuitive eaters do go, full on health at every size, that obesity is not an issue. So let's talk about that. First, I think that intuitive eaters are probably right when they say that the entire focus should not be on weight loss. Focusing on weight can lead people to stop exercising, stop eating healthfully because maybe they haven't lost enough weight or haven't lost any weight, and so they feel like, what's the point? It can lead people to follow fad diets to just get the weight off, which are often really restrictive and just too low in calories and not healthy. It can lead to yo-yo dieting, weight cycling, which doesn't look like actually causes any sort of negative physiological effects, but it certainly can seriously affect us psychologically. Focusing on weight can lead us to believe that skinny people are inherently healthy, which is obviously not true. And focusing on weight often means demonizing fat, and demonizing fat usually leads to demonizing fat people, which it obviously has. So yes, the focus should be on health, not weight loss for everyone, right? Skinny people need to exercise and eat well too. But that doesn't mean that having excess fat has no bearing on our health and well-being. Many health at every size advocates will point to the obesity paradox as proof that obesity isn't a concern. This is based on several studies that found lower mortality for overweight people or even obese people than normal weight people. But in studies that controlled for confounding factors like smoking and illness, which can cause weight loss, you don't see the same correlation. Over and over again, having a BMI of 25 or higher is associated with increased mortality and a host of other diseases and disorders. And a BMI lower than normal too. Even the low end of normal, 18.5 to 20, may not be the healthiest, according to this massive meta-analysis of millions of people spread across 4 continents. And unsurprisingly, it's a matter of degree. Having a BMI above 40 is associated with far greater risk than a BMI of like 27. There's also the distinction between BMI and maximum lifetime BMI, so the highest BMI that a person has had. This is really important because these studies, the normal category includes people who have always been in the normal BMI range, as well as people who haven't, people who have lost weight. And we know that people who have lost weight are likely to regain it. So including high-risk, formerly overweight people in the normal category very likely skews the results, which is exactly what we see with this study on BMI and mortality in never smokers. Comparing BMI taken at that point in time finds no association, but comparing max BMI tells a very different story. Overweight has a 28% increased risk, obese class 1 67%, and obese class 2 115% when compared to normal BMI. Now I know BMI is not everything, it's not the only health metric, which is why that studies like these looking at waist circumference and waist to height ratio are important, and they come to the same conclusion. More body fat is generally bad for you. Yes, it is true that some obese people are healthier than others, aka metabolically healthy. This isn't clearly defined, but generally it means being obese sans metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and elevated cholesterol/triglycerides. And because the definition isn't standardized, it's impossible to tell how many obese people are actually metabolically obese, anywhere between 6 and 40%. And for many people, this is not a permanent condition. Several studies have found that a large percentage of metabolically healthy obese participants became metabolically unhealthy several years later. This one, published in May, found that half of the metabolically obese participants were metabolically unhealthy at follow-up. Finally, being metabolically healthy doesn't really mean that someone is healthy. Obesity is associated with many other conditions besides diabetes and high cholesterol and high blood pressure. Not to mention everyday quality of life stuff that these studies rarely ever examine. Whether or not you're metabolically healthy has very little relevance to you if it's literally painful for you to run around with your kids or even just walk. So it seems like the majority of people with obesity are metabolically unhealthy or will be in the future. It makes sense to treat obesity as a disease to be cured, just like we do with cancer. I mean, is it possible to go into remission without any sort of treatment for your cancer? Sure, but it's unlikely. And so everyone with cancer is encouraged to seek treatment. Is it possible to be obese and stay healthy? Sure, but it's unlikely. So everyone with obesity is encouraged to seek treatment. I don't say this to shame anyone or to make anyone feel bad about themselves. I say it because it's true. It sucks, man. I wish that someone with a BMI of 40 who eats healthfully, eats like a whole food diet and exercises, would be just as healthy, would have the same, CVD risk, mortality, everything else as someone with a BMI of 24 who does all the same things, has all the same lifestyle habits. But that's just not the way it works. Maintaining a normal weight is important. Eating more calories than we need, even if all the calories are coming from healthy foods, it's bad for us. Now, obviously, the focus is on obesity. Being overweight does increase risk too, but clearly the people suffering the most are people who are obese, a BMI of 30 plus, particularly classes 2 and 3. This is when not only is there a huge increase in risk, but everyday quality of life is very likely going to be affected. And weight is obviously very personal. I can see someone maybe following intuitive eating, seeing huge, psychological, mental health benefits, but still being a few pounds over, the normal BMI range, and being content with that. We all have to strike that balance of being physically and mentally healthy. If trying to stay at like a 24 BMI makes you insane, but going up to like 26 is something that you can actually fairly easily maintain, then it makes sense to choose the higher weight that you can actually stick with without going crazy. My personal like comfy weight, my set point is about like 24 BMI, 135 to 138 pounds, somewhere around there. I can get lower. I can get to 130, 125, but I have to work to stay there. It's just too hard for a few less pounds that don't make me feel any better and that no one notices except for me. And I've been much lower than this. As I talked about in the last video, I got down to about 104. That was my lowest weight, which pushed me into the underweight category for my height. I had an underweight BMI. I, was living on fruit, freaking out when I ate some like nuts in the afternoon instead of letting myself starve and still wanting to lose more weight. So yeah, I was super happy and comfortable in my body. And please remember that you don't have to get down to below 25 BMI to see significant results, to significantly improve your health. A 5 to 10% weight loss, which is 10 to 20 pounds for someone weighing 200 pounds, offers amazing benefits. And there are diminishing returns. Losing enough weight to drop from obese to overweight, or even like obese class 3 to obese class 1, likely offers huge benefits, huge noticeable benefits for that person. But losing a few pounds to drop from like the low end of overweight to the high end of normal, it's not the same thing. And again, it could have, some negative side effects for that person's emotional well-being if that is really, really hard to maintain. Again, we all have to make that decision for ourselves. Just to be clear, this is not a knock against intuitive eating. Clearly, you can be pro-intuitive eating and still believe that excess body fat is bad for us, but many don't. And I think that's potentially a huge problem for intuitive eating. If people are trying it, gaining weight, and then being told that actually that's fine, that's terrible. But is that actually happening? Or are Tribble and Raish right when they say that following intuitive eating and not focusing on weight is actually the most effective way to lose weight and maintain it? I will talk about that in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, support the so close. Support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. Shirts. I have a shirt, teespring.com/stores/unnatural-vegan. Very awesome URL. Can it just be teespring.com/unnaturalvegan? No? Okay. Great. Love it. Oh, 250,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. When was I at 200,000? It was sometime this year, right? Because I got the thing. I got the little plaque thingy, right? And I was at like 200,000. So I remember being like, this is for 100,000. I'm already at 200,000. I'm just getting this now. Oh, wait, you know what? I think I posted it on Instagram. May, about to hit 200,000 subs. I've gotten 50,000 subscribers in 7 months. Holy crap. That has to have been the fastest growth for me. I mean, I think 250,000 subscribers in like a decade is pretty sad. I mean, I didn't start taking this seriously until like a few years after I started the channel. I mean, veganism isn't super mainstream. I mean, it's becoming more popular, but yeah, there's only like so many people who are going to like that. And then, of course, me, I'm not super, I guess, likable, so I'm not going to be like the, who's like a really like Pickup Limes, right? I mean, everyone would subscribe to that channel. I feel like even if you're not vegan, they're just like really well produced videos and nice recipes. And like, she's very, I want to say peaceful. Is that right? Like, she just comes across as just a really nice person. And I think I am a very specific person, like I think most people are going to be like turned off by me. And of course, some of the things I say are like controversial. So yeah, I think 250,000 subs in 10 years is actually pretty good now that I think about it. Oh, I improved my posture. My neck and my upper back are just so so much better. I literally had to focus, shoulders back, sit up, don't do this crap when you're working. And it was so hard for like 3 or 4 days, man. It was so sore, and it just feels like you're making it worse, but I did that, and I stretched a lot. My favorite is just laying on the floor, like feet up, and bent, like you're about to like raise up and do a bridge, right? Your back's on the floor, your legs are bent, and you just put your arms out like this against the floor. And when I first started doing it, like my wrist was like this, like I could not get this even close to the floor. And after I think just a couple days, it was significantly improved, and it just feels so good. And just some other, when you put the arm against the wall and do that sort of thing, that actually really hurts to put my hand flat against the wall. That's usually how you see people do it. I like to do it at a door frame so that this is all in one line instead of having, can you even see my hand? Instead of having my hand bent like that, I have it like that. So I do it against like a door frame. You can really like stretch your chest, right? Yeah, man, I'm like totally cured. It's great. I still have to remind myself every once in a while, and I just kind of do it automatically. It's like, oh, I'm, kind of hunched. And even when I'm relaxing, like I don't just sit on the couch anymore, just lean forward, like hand resting like this, just looking at my phone or whatever. I really try to have good posture. And if I'm just tired, I lay down, right? Which is better for my back anyway. If you've been really struggling with this whole area, there's a pretty good chance that it's posture. It's worth a try. It is free. It's hard. Again, those first few days are going to suck so bad. It's going to be so painful. But if you can make it through that, man, it's great. Like I was having so much pain, just like 30 minutes at my computer, it would get so bad. And then after a couple hours, it's like now I have a tension headache and I just have to like lay down, and it would take hours for it to get better, and then just do it all again the next day. It's so hard, man. It's so much harder than just like stretch, stretch your muscles. It's like, yeah, I can do that. It's like, I want something that I can do for like 5 minutes a day and that fixes it. No, like you got to have good posture like 90% of the time. It's the only way.